They told us to wait for the trailer, but what if the real story already escaped the vault? Because right now, whispers are spreading fast that the Power Legacy official trailer and full plot have leaked. And if even half of this is true, then the Power universe is about to flip itself upside down. Not louder, not flashier, darker, smarter, and far more dangerous than anyone is ready for. Power Legacy doesn't begin with explosions or celebrations. It begins with tension, the kind you feel before something goes very wrong. According to the leak, the story picks up in a New York that feels unfamiliar, almost uneasy. The streets aren't chaotic anymore. They're quiet, too quiet. And anyone who knows power understands one thing clearly: silence is never peace. It's a warning. Tommy's back in New York, but he's not the same man who left. Chicago didn't break him, it sharpened him. He returns not chasing territory, but carrying unfinished business. People sense it the moment he steps back into the city. Old names resurface, old fears wake up, and suddenly, doors that were once closed start opening again, not because they want to, but because they're afraid of what happens if they don't. At the same time, Tariq's return hits differently. This isn't the confused kid from before. This isn't even the reckless survivor we last saw. The leak paints Tariq as calm, calculated, and disturbingly patient. He doesn't rush, he doesn't threaten, he watches. And while everyone is busy tracking Tommy's moves, Tariq quietly starts shifting pieces behind the scenes, building connections, testing loyalties, letting other people make mistakes for him. What makes this dangerous is their alliance. On the surface, it looks solid, two forces moving together, but beneath that, there's tension. Tommy believes in action, Tariq believes in timing. Tommy sends messages with fear, Tariq sends messages with information, and the city starts to feel the pressure of both at once. Crime families start meeting in secret, old enemies start talking again. Everyone senses that New York is about to change hands, and nobody knows who will be left standing when it does. But here's where the leak turns unsettling. Rumors begin spreading through the underworld, not about Tommy, not about Tariq, about Ghost. His name starts popping up in places it shouldn't. Old locations resurface. Moves are made that feel familiar, too familiar. And suddenly, people start asking questions they never thought they'd ask again. Is Ghost really gone? Or did he leave something behind that's still playing the game? Tommy feels it before anyone else. Not fear, memory. And Tariq feels it too, but in a different way. Like the city itself is pushing him towards something he doesn't fully understand yet. Something bigger than money, bigger than power. Something tied to a legacy that refuses to stay buried. Because if Ghost's shadow is really moving again, then this isn't just a takeover, it's a reckoning. And the real question is, who is that shadow really coming for next? As the leaked story pushes deeper, Power Legacy stops feeling like a comeback and starts feeling like a trap slowly closing in. New York doesn't react loudly to Tommy and Tariq's presence. It adapts. The city studies them, watches how they move, and then it starts responding in ways that feel calculated, almost intelligent. According to the leak, this isn't a city waiting to be conquered. It's a city waiting to test them. Tommy's reputation alone sends shockwaves through the underground. People still remember Chicago. Entire crews wiped out, power structures erased overnight. And the fear isn't just about what Tommy can do, it's about how far he's willing to go when he feels cornered. Meetings start happening without phones. Trusted lieutenants suddenly stop sharing information. Old allies hesitate before answering calls, not because they don't respect Tommy, but because they don't know if standing next to him is protection or a death sentence. Meanwhile, Tariq plays a very different game. The leak suggests he begins quietly exploiting the cracks forming across the city. He doesn't announce himself, he lets others do that for him. He listens more than he speaks. He lets enemies underestimate him, And while everyone is focused on Tommy's movements, Tariq is busy mapping out the entire board. Who controls what, who hates who, who's desperate, who's lying, and most importantly, who can be used without even realizing it. What makes this phase dangerous is that New York already has its own kings, men who survived Ghost, men who survived Tommy before, men who believe they understand how this city works. The leak hints at invisible borders dividing New York, each ruled by someone ruthless enough to keep power, but smart enough to stay alive. And now, two unpredictable forces have walked straight into their territory, not asking permission, not following rules. This is where the tone turns darker. The leaked plot strongly suggests that instead of direct war, the city chooses pressure. Loved ones are watched, financial lines are squeezed, information starts leaking in ways that feel intentional. Someone always seems one step ahead, and slowly, both Tommy and Tariq realize that New York isn't fighting them head-on. It's exhausting them, forcing them to make mistakes, forcing them to turn on people they trust. Tariq adapts quickly, almost too quickly. He starts spreading misinformation, creating false conflicts between rival crews, letting New York tear itself apart while he stays clean. But the leak makes it clear that this control comes at a cost. The more he manipulates, the colder he becomes. The more calculated his choices get, the more he starts sounding like someone else we all remember. And that realization doesn't scare the city nearly as much as it scares Tariq himself. Tommy, on the other hand, begins to struggle, not with fear, but with restraint. The leak suggests moments where he wants to respond with violence, but realizes violence won't solve this phase of the war. New York doesn't bleed the same way Chicago did. This city poisons slowly, and the frustration starts pushing Tommy toward dangerous decisions that could cost him allies or worse. And just when it feels like the biggest threat is the crime lords tightening their grip, the leak drops something far more disturbing. Someone is feeding information, not randomly, strategically. Moves are being anticipated before they happen. Safe routes are compromised. Deals collapse at the worst possible moment. And the whispers start again, because these aren't rookie mistakes being exploited. These are patterns, familiar ones. People begin saying Ghost's name out loud, not as a memory, as a warning. Some believe he's alive. Others think someone studied him well enough to become him. Either way, fear spreads, because Ghost didn't just control territory, he controlled people. And if his shadow is influencing the game again, then no one is truly safe. The leak makes one thing painfully clear at this point. This isn't just a power struggle, it's psychological warfare. And if New York is already inside their heads, how long before one of them breaks? By the time the leaked plot reaches this phase, Power Legacy fully sheds the idea of a traditional crime war and steps into something far more unsettling. New York is no longer reacting to chaos, it's engineering it. According to the leak, every move Tommy and Tariq make now feels anticipated, almost invited. Safe spaces stop feeling safe, trusted routines become liabilities, and the city begins closing in without ever showing its face. This is where power stops being loud and starts becoming invisible. Tommy starts to feel it first, not as fear, but as pressure, the kind that doesn't explode but slowly suffocates. The leak suggests that old connections begin acting strangely. People he's trusted for years hesitate, deflect, delay. Information arrives late or incomplete, and every time something goes wrong, there's a disturbing sense that it was meant to, as if the city itself is steering him toward a breaking point. For a man who's always relied on instinct and force, this is torture, because you can't punch paranoia, you can't shoot uncertainty. Tariq, meanwhile, appears to thrive in this environment. The leak paints him as several moves ahead, using chaos as camouflage. He creates conflicts that aren't real, he fuels rivalries that never needed to exist, and while everyone is busy fighting shadows, Tariq advances quietly. But this phase reveals something unsettling about him. He doesn't just predict outcomes anymore, he designs them. And that shift changes how people around him start looking at him, not as a partner, not as a survivor, but as a threat. The leak strongly hints that this is where law enforcement enters the picture in a way we've never seen before. Not raids, not sirens, silent investigations, sealed indictments, financial audits that come out of nowhere. People disappear quietly, not in body bags, but into systems that erase them slowly. And once again, the timing feels too perfect. Someone knows exactly where to apply pressure. Someone understands how to hurt without touching. And then come the losses. Not random, not accidental. The leaked details suggest that characters who feel untouchable are suddenly removed from the board. Some die fast, shocking everyone. Others fall slowly, betrayed by people they never suspected. These moments aren't about action, they're about consequence. Each loss sends a message. This game has rules now, and breaking them comes at a cost. This is also where the ghost mystery tightens its grip. The leak doesn't confirm his return, but it doesn't need to. His presence is everywhere. Old locations resurface, decisions mirror past strategies, financial trails appear that shouldn't exist, and the idea starts forming that Ghost didn't need to survive physically to remain dangerous. He survived mentally, strategically, through systems and plans set in motion long before anyone realized. Tommy begins questioning his own memories. Did he really know Ghost as well as he thought? Were there plans he never saw? And for the first time, the possibility that Ghost may still be controlling outcomes hits him harder than any enemy ever could. Because you can fight a man, but how do you fight a legacy? Tariq's struggle is different. The leak suggests he starts recognizing himself in the shadow everyone fears. His decisions grow colder, more precise, and while he tells himself it's strategy, the line between control and cruelty begins to blur. Friends question him, allies hesitate, and loyalty starts cracking quietly without confrontation, the most dangerous kind of betrayal. This section of the leak builds toward a moment that feels inevitable, a massive betrayal. Someone close, someone trusted, someone who has been there from the beginning. The signs are subtle, but once they appear, they're impossible to ignore. Conversations feel rehearsed, information leaks at the worst times, and the realization slowly sets in that the enemy isn't outside anymore. Power legacy reaches a point where survival is no longer about strength or intelligence alone. It's about knowing who you can trust and who's already sold you out. And when that truth finally comes out, will it destroy their alliance or turn them into something even more dangerous? As the leaked storyline moves into its final stretch, Power Legacy stops asking who will rule New York and starts asking a far more dangerous question. What will it cost to survive it? By now, the city is no longer divided by blocks or crews. It's divided by information, secrets, influence, and the people who control those things don't need guns to destroy lives. According to the leak, this is where the real endgame begins, and nothing about it feels heroic. Tommy is pushed to a breaking point we've never seen before, not because he's losing fights, but because he's losing control. The leak suggests that every option in front of him leads to loss. If he strikes hard, he exposes himself. If he stays patient, he bleeds slowly. Enemies surround him that he cannot simply eliminate, hiding behind legal systems, financial leverage, and political connections. For the first time, brute force stops working, and that realization eats away at him. This is the phase where Tommy is forced to confront the truth he's avoided his entire life. The life he chose never promised peace. It only promised survival, for as long as it could. Tariq, on the other hand, steps fully into the role the city has been shaping him for. The leak paints him as terrifyingly composed. He stops reacting to threats and starts creating them. He doesn't wait for wars, he designs them. People move because he wants them to, not because they understand why. But this mastery comes with isolation. The more control he gains, the fewer people stand beside him. Friends pull away, allies grow distant, and the silence around him becomes heavier than the chaos he commands. This is where the ghost mystery reaches its most haunting form. The leaked details suggest a long-buried contingency plan finally surfaces. something Ghost set in motion years ago, designed to activate only if certain conditions were met. This plan doesn't require Ghost to be alive. That's what makes it terrifying. It proves that Ghost understood power on a level no one else did. His influence was never tied to his body, it was tied to his vision. And now that vision is shaping the final moves of the story. Evidence begins appearing, financial trails that shouldn't exist, old enemies gaining access to information they could never have found on their own, decisions unfolding exactly as Ghost once predicted. Whether Ghost is alive or not becomes irrelevant. His shadow is real, and it's guiding everyone toward an outcome that feels unavoidable. New York itself begins to change. The city grows quiet again, not because the war is over, but because everyone senses the final shift coming. Deaths occur, not as warnings, but as conclusions. Some are brutal and sudden, others are slow and heartbreaking. Characters who once felt untouchable are erased, reminding everyone that in this world, survival is temporary. As the leak approaches its end, the focus turns inward. Tommy faces a choice that could save his future but destroy everything he's ever believed in. A choice that forces him to let go of the past or be buried by it. Tariq faces a different realization. He has become everything he once ran from, smarter than Ghost, colder than Ghost, and just as alone. The legacy he inherited didn't just follow him, it shaped him. The final moments teased by the leak don't offer celebration, they offer reflection. New York stands still, almost holding its breath. The city may belong to Tommy and Tariq, but ownership feels meaningless now. The cost has already been paid, and it can never be refunded. Power legacy doesn't end by crowning a king. It ends by exposing the truth behind power itself. Because in the power universe, legends don't die. They evolve, they haunt, and they wait. And when the silence finally settles, one question refuses to disappear. Was this the end of Ghost's legacy, or only the beginning?